This is your Barbados Today evening news update for Wednesday, March the 28th. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. A row between Crane Beach and beach vendors have been settled. Word of this from General Manager of the luxury resort, Sean Allen. Earlier this month, the Crane had evicted 2 vendors on the grounds that the section of the beach on which they have been operating for years was actually the beachfront property of the luxury resort. The issue sparked a strong public outcry, but today Allen told Barbados Today the Crane never had any intention of privatizing the beach, and he disclosed that the 2 sides had reached an agreement at talks this morning.
We fully support that all Barbados beaches are public and have no desire to privatize Crane Beach. The public has always been and will always be welcome to enjoy the beach. After ongoing discussions with the vendors, we were able to come to an agreement this morning for them to continue operating on the beach and store their chairs in a more proportionate area than previously utilized. We will continue any further deliberations with the NCC separately.
Despite the assurances of an agreement between the hotel and the vendors, plans are afoot for a protest at the Crane Beach on Saturday. It will be led by cultural ambassador the Mighty Gabby, who wrote the song Jack in 1982, declaring, "That beach is mine." Gabby is upset about the plight of the vendors, and he tells Barbados Today while he has received reports that the issue has been settled, Barbadians must still send a strong message that beaches belong to them.
The beach belong to us, or in Belgian parlance, to we. So therefore, we will be leading a protest. We are asking Barbadians to bring their chairs down to the Crane Beach. We want Barbadians by their thousands to move their chairs down on the crane to let him know that that beach belongs to us and that he cannot take it from us. He nor no other person on this earth, none. We will die defending that beach.
In other news now, financial challenges are looming for Barbados. So warns noted economic professor Andrew Rose while addressing the 5th Caribbean Economic Forum last evening. He said an economic stimulus package in the U.S. will raise interest rates in that country, and this was likely to cause the U.S. dollar to appreciate. Rose said countries like Barbados that have a currency tied to the U.S. dollar will be negatively affected.
It is certainly the case that interest rates have been rising in the northern countries, especially the United States most dramatically, and they're likely to continue to rise. The Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, would like to see interest rates being more normal, more in the range of 4 or 5% if possible. That seems unlikely. But they're certainly too low for the Fed's comfort at this point. Will they rise? Probably another 75 basis points, maybe more this year. They've already risen some. Everyone expects that to continue. But they will probably rise even more in the indefinite future because the fiscal stimulus that the United States passed at the end of last year is going to put even more pressure on interest rates to rise. So I do think that northern interest rates, especially American interest rates, will continue to rise. What is that going to do? Anyone in the American orbit, that is Canada, Mexico, the countries in the Caribbean, Central America, Latin America, but also the Pacific and East Asia, all of those are going to feel the effects of capital as it starts flowing towards the United States in search of those higher interest rates. That's going to raise interest rates and tighten monetary conditions in all of the financial periphery of the United States, and certainly including countries in the Caribbean. And it will also probably lead to an appreciation of the United States dollar. Any country that's fixed to the United States dollar, as for instance Barbados is, and the countries further north in the East Caribbean currency area, they will all be appreciating along with the United States. So I think this is going to have dramatic effects on all of the countries in the American financial sphere, especially countries that are fixed to the U.S. dollar, not just in the Caribbean, but also Panama and Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala. It's going to affect lots of countries.
Meanwhile, there are also pending challenges in Europe. Professor Rose believes that current Brexit negotiations between the UK and the European Union will result in economic turmoil for Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean.
I can't imagine that we'll see any serious negotiations concluded for Brexit over the foreseeable future. And that's just going to lead to tremendous uncertainty for anything that's related to British commerce. And certainly Barbados is very seriously affected because the UK sends lots of tourists down here and they're involved in lots of other businesses directly. That's not going to be good news for the countries in the Caribbean that do lots of business with the UK. Well, in some sense, you want the Brexit negotiations to be tough because Barbados and none of the Caribbean countries are at all directly affected, so you want the UK to turn more away from the European Union towards other countries which it engages in commerce. But that said, anything that adversely affects the UK is going to be bad for anyone doing business with it. If I were in charge, and I have no desire to be in charge, I would say diversification away from the UK is a good idea. And Latin America seems to be the most obvious choice for the countries in the Caribbean.
In sports, it was a big day celebration for the St. Albans Primary School, which won its first ever NAPSAC boys title. Students, teachers, and parents sang, jumped, and danced in the surrounding districts of Western St. James and the Gardens as part of a motorcade. Physical education teacher Dwayne Boucher is over the moon at his athletes' performance. He told Barbados Today they finally brought home the bacon, and he's confident they could win again next year. Principal Vendine Prince attributed the win to hard work and determination.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Welcome back with news from the region now. In Jamaica, the attention is on the new ministerial team following a cabinet reshuffle. One notable change is the reallocation of former Finance Minister Audley Shaw to the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. Shaw, however, assures there is nothing to worry about.
There has been debate about Audley Shaw's transfer from the Finance Ministry to the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. Some say it's a demotion, given the profile of the Finance Minister and the fact that apart from the Prime Minister, it is the only ministry mentioned in the Constitution. Audley Shaw had a different perspective.
A demotion? Absolutely not. This is without question, having stabilized the economy, having gotten the numbers right. Dollars at this stage is revaluing again. We have stability. We have record employment. Unemployment has dropped by over 2% in the past 2 years. The macroeconomic fundamentals are right. What is now needed is for us to move to the growth agenda.
Do you think this is a bigger and better job than that of Finance?
Well, it's much more challenging right now.
And on the international front, a federal judge said Wednesday that a lawsuit alleging gifts or payments from foreign and domestic governments made to President Donald Trump may be illegal and can proceed. But the ruling from Judge Peter Messit of the U.S. District Court of Maryland says the Maryland and District of Columbia Attorneys General who brought the case will have to focus it on the Trump Organization's operations in Washington. Observers say the suit could spell trouble for the president.
The president is sworn to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution.
So help me God.
So help me God. So help me God.
But conflicts of interest between Donald Trump's businesses and his presidency could spark a constitutional crisis. How? President Trump could run afoul of an obscure section of the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause.
That's been in there ever since the founding of the country. And could lead to a very serious constitutional crisis if there were to be an accusation.
It bars government officials from accepting payments and gifts of any kind from any king, prince, or foreign state.
I just sold an apartment for $15 million to somebody from China. Am I supposed to dislike him?
What we do know is that Trump's business relationships span the globe, and foreign governments can play a big role in private companies in places like China, Dubai, and Russia. And there are even questions stateside. According to the New York Times, the Trump Organization is partly on the hook for a $950 million mortgage. One of the lenders? The Bank of China, which the Chinese government controls.
You know where their United States headquarters is located? In this building, in Trump Tower. I love China.
So could a mortgage be considered a gift under the emoluments clause?
The bank loan from, for example, the Bank of China, if that loan is to be renegotiated, the question is going to come up, is it an arm's length transaction or is it not?
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic evening.